Gameplay Storytime with Max Monster.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Civilization Storytime. As always, I'm your host, Max Monster, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Now, today we're going to be talking about a topic that is just so near and dear to so many people's hearts, and for good reason. That is, of course, because I am talking about the first car that I ever owned. And yes, we all have the memories that we made. We all have those ones we'd rather forget and the ones that will stick with us forever because they just made us who we are in that vehicle. Now, mind you, I grew up in a very remote hill town area. I think I've mentioned that before. And getting a car was like winning the lottery. I had just gotten my learner's permit, and I come home, and sitting in our driveway was a 1999 Volvo S80. Now, this was my grandmother's old car, actually. She had gotten a new one and wanted to give it to me as a gift for getting my learner's permit. And I was so grateful for that. I still am very grateful for that because it allowed me to go out and do things with my friends. You know, it was really hard to get anywhere in these remote hill towns. So, it allowed me to actually have kind of a social life without having to rely on my parents for rides. And that felt really good. Now, this car, I don't want to say it was very good. Well, it wasn't very good at all. It was a junker. It had over 200,000 miles on it. My grandma sure put in some mileage on this vehicle. It was used as a family car for a little while before I inherited it. But ultimately, I'm very grateful for this experience. I think everybody deserves to have kind of a junky first car their first time because it lets you know what to expect and to expect the unexpected while you're driving. And that didn't happen any stronger to me than about the third week I had owned this car. Uh, I had gotten my learner's permit in October, if I'm remembering correctly. And in the New England area, it's not uncommon to get snow in October and November. So the first light dusting of snow of the year, I was driving my car, being an inexperienced driver. I may or may not have been going slightly too fast around a turn, and that thin layer of snow on the road caused my car to go straight when I turned the wheels left, and next thing I knew, I was in a ditch. Fortunately for me, the car did keep me pretty well protected. I had missed a telephone pole by a mere foot or two, so I'm very grateful I didn't hit a telephone pole. And all in all, amazingly enough, very minimal damage done to this vehicle from this crash. I mean, there was a piece of wood that was stuck in the passenger door. I think there were some other just scratches, other cosmetic damage, but ultimately pretty good shape still, all things considered. And I was thrilled about that because the last thing I wanted to do was lose this car that I had just gotten because I crashed it. Now, the next incident here was about a month afterwards. I was driving home, and fortunately for me, I got about, say, 200 yards from home, and my engine just cut out. No idea why. It just completely died. Uh, And so, like I said, I was about 200 yards from home. I just walked home the rest of the way, left my car there. And I went to get my dad, be like, hey, my car died. He's like, all right. He shows up and he goes to turn over the vehicle, and it just won't turn over at all. Just kind of sits there. Click, click, click every time he turns the key. Well, he tests the battery when we get back home. He's got this big truck. We tow it back home. He tests the battery. Battery is completely dead. He goes, all right, let's change the battery out. We change out the battery. Brand new battery here. Works totally fine. And after about a day of driving, click, battery dies. So we bring it to the shop, and sure enough, find out that the alternator has died. Now, if you don't know what an alternator is, no fault to you if you don't. I didn't know until this happened to me. It's the part of your vehicle that allows your battery to charge while you're driving. So very important piece of the car. Totally failed. Cost me about $1,000 to get the piece replaced. And I will give this as a warning to anybody that owns a Volvo in their life. It does not matter how old this vehicle is. Their parts are expensive as hell. So if you love them because of their safety features or other features, they are really good cars. But let me tell you, they are definitely expensive to fix. So just always keep your eye out for that when you're searching for vehicles. A little piece of advice from your friend Max Monster. But back to story time here. We're going to fast forward now about 6 months later. Car has been working great actually at this point. It has been really, really good for me. I've been spending more time with my friends than I probably ever have, and I'm loving every second of it. One of these things that you also do as a teenager is you're in your courting process. You're seeing, as a polite way to put it, if you ask a girl out or you get some hints that she might want you to come over, you're gonna go do it because you're a single boy who's a teenager that's looking for some fun times. I'll just leave it at that. So mind you, it's about 7 o'clock at night at this point, and I'm driving. Normal day. I don't know exactly where this girl's house is, but I'm like, you know what? Hey, I've got a car. I'm a navigator now. I'll figure it out. I use this old GPS called a TomTom. I don't even know if they're still in business anymore. I would need to look that up. But anyways, I had one in my car. I was using it for my navigation, and for the life of me, the map must not have been updated because I could not find this girl's house. It was driving me nuts. It took me down this weird dirt road, and about 100 yards down this dirt road, it says to go straight, and I look, and there is a literal pond in the middle of the road. Like, I'm not joking when I say a pond. It wasn't a puddle that was slightly deep. It wasn't just a flowing river that was going through. No, no, no. We're talking about probably a 6 to 7 foot deep pond in the middle of this road. And there's no other way to go other than where I came. So, in my infinite intelligence, I decided to try to go around said pond. Now, mind you, there's not much room, and my tires were getting wet one way or another. And so I figured, screw it. We'll go around. What's the worst that can happen? Looks flat enough. Well, the worst thing that could have happened happened. I'm going around. My car is totally fine. And I must not have seen something under some of the water because next thing I know, I hear thunk. And I'm like, well, that's not a good noise. My car starts making kind of a funny noise. And so I'm like, okay, I clearly can't cross this. There's no way around. I'm just going to back up. And I back up and I look in front of me and I just go, what the hell is that? I get out and I look on the ground, and underneath my car is just pouring this green liquid, which immediately I know was antifreeze. Yes, because I was a horny boy, I drove a rock through my radiator in my car and was just leaking antifreeze everywhere. May this be a lesson to you folks. When you're driving and you are horny, always make the smart decisions. Don't try to cross a lake or a pond or dangerous terrain. Just turn around. The person will still be there if they actually want to do something with you. So, yeah, that's my little life lesson from your friend Max Monster. But either way, fortunately, ironically enough, I didn't even know this at the time. One of my classmates actually had lived about 100 yards down the road. I had no cell service. I was just running to find help from anybody at this point in the middle of nowhere. Ironically enough, come across my classmate's house. Their parents are nice enough to let me, use the phone, call my dad, call a tow truck. My dad shows up and he is just, I've never seen a more just disappointed look on his face. Just shook his head, barely said anything. He's just like, okay, just don't do that again. Like, please don't do that again. That was stupid. And all I can think at this point is, wow, I got off kind of easy, because I don't know if I would have been as nice to me at that point. Because again, mind you, he shows up in his pajamas. It's like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and he was ready for bed. So I definitely knocked him out of his slumber, and he had to drive about 40 minutes to come pick me up one way. So yeah, thanks, Dad. Appreciate that. I haven't forgot about that. But this is not the end of my adventures with my first car. No, 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 no. We're not even close, my friends. Because later this year, I go on a trip to Virginia with my school because I was a band kid. I was a choir kid. Yes, yes, I was that guy. And I don't regret it, to be honest with you. I actually really loved band and choir while I was there. I actually highly recommend it if you have any interest. Like go pursue your happiness, guys. It's absolutely worth it. But that's back to where we were. I left my car in my school's parking lot. We go on this trip. It was a lovely trip. I come back. I get in my car. Everything so far so normal. I go to school the next day, and as I'm driving to school, I look and my tire is starting to wobble. Like, how is that happening? So I finish up my way to school again. Probably not the smartest thing to do at this point. But I go to school and I make it there. And I'm like, I should really check out this tire before I go into school here. And I look and I shit you not, 5 of the 6 lug nuts were gone. Gone. Just not there. My tire was being held on by a single lug nut. Don't know how it happened. It wasn't like that before I left. If somebody was doing something nasty to my car, please don't do that. You could actually cost someone their life by doing something like that. I hope it wasn't malicious. I have no idea, honestly, if it was, and nor do I really want to know at this point in my life. But yeah, I had to once again make an emergency call to the family, who, bless them, have been so patient with me throughout my entire life, to go get me some lug nuts for my car so I could drive home after football practice. However, we are still not done, because I was a awful car owner when I was 16. I was on my way home from getting pizza for my family. And one of the roads, once again, another dirt road, very common in this area that I grew up in, was very rough. It was what you would call washboarded. And I, instead of being a cautious and careful driver, decided that I didn't need to slow down on this washboarded road. Why would I, after all? It's not like they're big bumps or anything. So I'm jamming out, rocking out to music. No big deal. I think I was listening to like some Avenged Sevenfold or something at that point. So the music was loud. It was banging. It was sounding good. I get home, totally don't realize anything has happened until about an hour later. There's a knock on my door. And one of the guys that I used to play football with is standing there. And he just looks at me and goes, "You missing something?" I'm like, "No, I don't think so. What are you doing here?" And he's like, "You sure about that? Why don't you come look in my trunk and I'll show you what I'm talking about." And I'm like, "All right, so far so weird, but whatever." The guy was he was a little bit of a different guy, so was hearing him out, no big deal. Go out to my car, or excuse me, I go out to his car, and I look, and in his trunk is a muffler. And I'm like, why are you showing me a muffler? And he goes, "Because it fell off your car." I'm like, how would you even know it fell off my car? He's like, "Because I was outside when you drove by and it was just really, really loud coming from your car. I saw you. And sure enough, about 20 yards behind my house, which, again, everybody knows each other in these small towns, was sitting my muffler. So he had at least the decency to come drive it and drop it off for me. I think he wanted to just kind of make fun of me for it in the meantime. Can't say I blame him. I would have done the exact same thing. So I get my muffler back. And yeah, that was another $300 to get it fixed. Now I'm throwing out these numbers now, honestly, and I'm thinking to myself, I wish this is how much it costs to fix your car in the modern day, but it's not the world we live in anymore. So back on track though, get the muffler thrown back on there. And it was really from that point forward that this car was proving to me that it really was on its last legs. Some really just funky things started happening from this point forward, not as if everything else wasn't strange. The car, first off, ended up having this really bizarre situation. And if this has happened to any of you guys, like, please let me know. I have never heard of this happening in an automatic vehicle before, but my car got stuck in third gear in it with an automatic car. Now, the weird thing about this is that when you turn the car off, it would drop it back to first gear as per normal. You know, that's what automatic cars are supposed to do. However, when the car would inevitably shift up to third gear, it would go up to fourth gear. That was totally fine, but it would never drop back down past third gear again. Now, living in a mountainous town, this was a bit of a problem because you need to go to those lower gears sometimes to climb hills, particularly during winter. And I couldn't do that. So it was a struggle getting home sometimes. Not gonna lie. So my car got stuck in third gear and just wouldn't come out. But I kept driving it for about another 2 months, and finally the hay that broke the camel's back was the electrical system finally failed on me. I was on my way home with one of my friends in the car. Again, fortunately, we live in a very rural area, so there wasn't much traffic, and I get about halfway home, and my headlights just click, completely cut out. Completely gone. Can't do anything to turn them back on. I turn off the car, turn it back on, headlights won't come on at all, period. And fortunately, we had a mag light in the glove box, and so we shone that in front of us for about 1.5 miles to make it back to my house. Fortunately, it had happened there and not further away, but still, if you have never had to do that before, let me tell you guys, especially as a 17-year-old, it is not that easy to drive with a mag light as your headlights in pitch black during the spring in New England. So don't recommend it. Ultimately, at that point, we were just looking, we're like, we have already dropped about $2,500 in repairs on this car. My mom was getting scared at this point. She's like, I really don't want you driving this vehicle anymore. It's clearly dangerous. She knew about the problem with the third gear situation and the electrical system now failing. So ultimately, we just put it in the yard, slapped a make your best offer on it, and one of our neighbors came by and bought the thing for like $200, I think is what it was. But that being said, guys, I know it sounds like I'm complaining a bit about this car sometimes, but I need to tell you, I look back at this vehicle now with just such love in my heart for what this car allowed me to do and these stories that it allowed me to tell you all. So if any of you guys have some really great first car memory stories that you'd like to share, just DM me, put it in the comments. I would love to hear your experiences with your first vehicle because I know we all have them. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode here of Civilization Storytime. I hope you have all been enjoying this series here. Please let me know in the comment section below. Leave the video a like and give me a subscribe if you don't have one. It would mean just so much to me. So thanks for tuning in again, guys. We'll pick up where we left off in a few days. Alrighty. See ya.